Let's see if this is working. Oh, there we are in our glorious, glorious world behind us. Hello, everyone. Welcome to JBM, BMJ, MJB, Vodcast, podcast, talk show. We're here to talk flight simulation. And I'll just pass it right on over to Brad since he's there in the middle.
All right. Okay. All right. Middle starts first. I like it. Well, so what's going on, guys? Welcome to our third JBM now. It's our third JBM, right?
I think so, yep.
Yeah. And we're, digging right into it here. We've obviously had a pretty crazy past couple of months since we've done our last show. A lot's happened on the sim front, on the global front, and I think it's going to make for a pretty good podcast here because we just have just about a lot to talk about and only a little bit of time, really. So, how's your guys' week been so far? Anything good going on? Mr. Max, you're on the right side. Let's hear it.
I'm on the right side.
Mhm.
It's been a very interesting, I think, couple weeks and something we'll dig into more in a little bit, but just V5, Flight Sim Expo. I mean, just for myself personally, starting to control more, just, everyone kind of around more, which on a selfish note has been so much fun being able to play Call of Duty at 2:00 on a Monday with Brad, which has just been, so it's been a weird life just, in general, but I think from a community point of view, a flight simulation point of view, it's been, I think, a really exciting from discounts and just everyone being more around, more group flights. I think it's been really, really. I think it's been on that side a very good thing for the community the past couple of weeks, and developers doing sales and just been it's been good. I think there's been a lot of good positive juju in the community recently, which has been good to see.
Yeah, a lot of people, a lot of time at home, and the thank goodness for the internet staying solid during this crazy time where the whole world is overloading the infrastructure. Well, not overloading it. You'd think it would be overloaded, but we're able to continue with our online ATC, whether it be Pilot Edge, VATSIM, or whatever like that. But yeah, I've been enjoying working from home a little bit, also going into the office once in a while. And when I'm home, I loving getting into these new platforms that we got going on. We're going to talk about it today. We'll talk about X-Plane 11 with the Vulcan, and we'll also talk about the P3D V5, baby.
Yeah, we love V5. We love it. I'm not sure, Max, I think you might be the only person in this show that does not have V5. Is that correct?
That is correct. That is correct. I'm still on the terrible old platform from like 40 years ago, V4. Yes, that is correct.
I gotta say though, like just getting right into V5 as it is though, like I mean, you're not missing much, not being a day one adopter. I mean, it's cool to like have it and see the differences, between V4 and V5. But I mean, out of the gate, not a whole lot ready to go. So you're not exactly missing a plethora of experiences yet. And I know a bunch of guys are still going to be waiting to transition just because the planes aren't ready. Some of the airports are still not ready and things like that. So it's definitely a different scenario from V4 to V5 than V3 to V4.
Yeah. No, completely.
So, I mean, yeah.
I think for me, until there's some planes that I can fly, I'm not the kind of guy that's going to load in an F-16 and fly around for 2 hours being like, oh, wow, that cloud's really cool or that sky's really cool. It just doesn't, but once there's some active sky, there's some chase plane, there's all that, labs and NGX and all that stuff, I'll be in 100% if I don't break my sim in the process. But if I can get my sim actually functional, I'll definitely get there for sure. Totally.
I really enjoyed the A2A 172 is just a quick look at the V5, and I was extremely impressed with the frames, and I was really, really happy that Latin VFR had most of their airports, if not all of them, V5 compatible, and also it was easy just to drag and drop the A2A folder over to V5, and then of course I learned if you point the Quality Wings installer to V5, that works to some degree. So we've got a couple of things. I did attempt to manually drag and drop the NGXU, and it didn't work, and I don't know what folders, and so I just said hold your horses, wait for a proper installer. But between the NGXU and the FS Labs, I think it's a matter of weeks. I'm hoping before we have an installer, and how fantastic it is going to be to have all those frames. Happy that Chase Plane was working, but yeah, like you two, I'm looking forward to Active Sky and a bunch of the add-ons coming through, But it looks like V Pilot's in, so that's good, making way. and it's a game changer with DX12. So super happy about that.
Yeah, I think one of the good
What does
things.
DX12 even do? Can somebody? What does that even do? Sorry to sound like not
No, that's a good
intelligent.
question. That's a good
Yeah.
question. It essentially it's more of a modern rendering engine, and from my limited knowledge, it appears to take advantage of multiple cores, and it's also doing, it's getting less of that single thread situation, but it's just a more modern render engine like Vulkan. Vulkan's also taking advantage of multiple cores on your CPU. If I'm right, I think that's the way it's going. That's the layman's terms of difference
Okay.
between DX11 and 12, and of course OpenGL versus Vulkan.
It's funny to see though how Vulkan, which I guess you could maybe in some way compare the Vulkan update release to V5 in a certain capacity because they both improved performance, different engines powering it and stuff like that, right? But there was definitely a lot of stink about stuff not being compatible out of the gate for V5. Yet I don't really hear anybody complaining about Vulkan's day one release. Nothing was working, right? Except for I guess the TBM and stuff. But there was a whole list of incompatibilities. And I never heard anybody ever complain about, hey, my Tolus isn't working or this and that. I think of a few of them gotten the update so far, but there was definitely some pretty hot water in regards to the V5 compatibility from a bunch of different guys and how long it's taking and this and that. But you haven't heard that so much, at least from what I understand in the
Yeah.
X-Plane community. I don't
Yep.
know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
No,
But
100%. Yeah. I just think, it's funny because like when they announced V5, they were saying, I think there was a lot more, the developers thought a lot more of the platforms would be compatible or easier to transition over. And then it felt like maybe right when it released or maybe right when it was about to release, they were like, well, it's actually going to be maybe a little bit longer than we anticipated. And there was didn't you hear that a little bit too, Brad and John? I don't know. I heard that it was going to be easier, but then there was something with objects and stuff that was different, or something had to get rechanged. I don't know what it was in the details
in terms of what was that again? Sorry.
about like V5
For
compatibility from V4.
Well, I mean, like, yeah, I guess it was different because they're trying to, make this like a relatively speaking, like, competitive sim, I guess, compared to the new one that's going to be launching. So not
Yeah.
like, they're not trying to match it, but they need to obviously put something out that is better than the current platform. And my understanding is they pretty much updated basically all of, not all, but most of like the large global airports. And so guys who made old sceneries, which did not use specific excludes, which pretty much just is like a blanket that covers the default airports and the buildings don't pop up anymore. Those have
Yeah.
to be redone now
Okay.
because before they had, only partial excludes and not like the entire airport surface. So, installing my SFO flight beam day one, I had default airport there as well because flight beam didn't, add an airport wide exclude and stuff like that. So that's why we're having
Okay.
to see all of these new installers, new updates. Whereas in V3 to V4, you still had to have those, but you could
Yeah.
still use V3 sceneries and there wouldn't be the worry of default stuff showing through and all that. But my
Okay.
big concern was kind of like, what about those old sceneries that look really amazing, like Taxi to Gate? Those guys have disappeared, probably to never return. So how are we going to get those working? It might have to be done as a community type thing or on a user by user basis, doing it by
Yeah.
hand, which it's not terribly difficult, but for somebody who doesn't want to do it, it's pretty, hard to have to learn that skill real quick and then do it for all your airports. So
Yeah, and I think
yeah.
with some of the planes, there is some 3D virtual cockpit changes as far as what renders what, and so you're and there's also some systems that are behind the scenes. Again, a third attempt to install a payware aircraft into V5 was the Carenado Falcon 50, and it booted up just fine. I started it with but the FMC, it just says loading database, and it says that the entire time. So obviously Carenado has to go back and rework however their FMC is talking to the system. They have to redirect it to point to the new location for V5. So it's just a matter of time, but what a game changer with regard to frames. So, like you guys are saying, I think it's very timely that they're trying to stay competitive, and how wonderful it is that everyone has to compete with each other to stay at the forefront, and we are the benefactors of that acceleration.
Yeah.
Yeah. And additionally, maybe like I guess you could call it somewhat of a silver lining to kind of like what's going on like a global level. I basically understand that, pretty much 90% of devs are saying you're going to have the upgrade for free, right? Sceneries, it should make sense. It's a very simple fix. It just requires some, some very easy labor on their part. The aircraft, PMDG saying it's free. The labs, free. Aerosoft, free. Now, I mean, not for nothing. If, we weren't in the situation we're in right now, would that be the case? Because there was a lot of V4 charges in having to do, full rebuys over again. Again, V3 to V4, very large jump. Maybe not as big for the V4 to V5 guys, but still, it's nice to see that there's not a lot of update fees and stuff like that for a lot of these products that we've spent hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on for the past couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's not making the transition terribly difficult. You just have to go ahead and re-download everything all over again.
Yep.
Yeah, so the process. A question that I kind of had just on a personal level was, do you think V5 happened because Vulcan, they kind of pushed V5 out, they saw Vulcan X-Plane happening, they're like, oh boy, we got to get this done? Or is it because of kind of globally what's going on? Or three, which I think it could be even more, is that Microsoft 2020, it's happening. They want to get some momentum, some kind of following for V5 before 2020 comes out. I mean, what do you think it is? Or do you think this was just strictly, this is when it was scheduled to come out, so it just was on the schedule?
I think that Vulcan and P3D in DX12 was in development before V5 was announced. But you made a good point. I think the timing of release has been accelerated due to these other factors. But I think they both were working on that new technology even before 2020 was announced. So that's just a guess, though.
I would say it's largely just a coincidence, mostly because it was bound to happen. I mean, commercial customers, commercial customers who use this as like a training-based simulator and stuff like that for their own personal reasons, whether it be, military or commercial, whatever it might be. I wouldn't exactly say they have maybe a lot of room right now with the new flight sim coming out, which seems to cater to people like us, the enthusiast crowd. You don't exactly maybe see those large corporations and contractors going to the new flight sim, because P3D right now has the flexibility to be integrated in so many different ways for a commercial customer. So I think it was bound to happen. I think that they wanted to stay competitive, so it released maybe earlier than it typically might have. But I don't think it was one of those like, oh crap, we have to get this caught up now. You can see there's a lot of work that's gone into it. Switching engines can't be an easy task, and all these new SDK changes and things like that, redoing these global airports and all that stuff. So I think it's been an undertaking for quite a while, but the release timing might just be a pure coincidence to me. I don't know. That's what it seems. Maybe I could be wrong.
Really, the only people that know the answer to that question, I think, are the devs themselves, and they're probably not going to, talk about why or when or how or whatever. But it's good times for us, and I don't think it's too far down the road that we're all going to see triple-digit frames on short final into massive detailed airports. So I'm already seeing triple digits in some scenarios, which is fantastic. So
I only have a 60 hertz monitor, so I can only hope for 60. That's about all I can take is just my 60 frames. So I'm good with double digits.
In flight sim, 60 is fine. I'm surprised you do so well with COD at 60 hertz. I'm impressed.
I don't really, I never caught onto the whole 144 hype with the monitors. I just don't like, I mean, yeah, you move fast in Call of Duty, but as you can see, night after night, I'm still continuing to beat CitationMax, consistently night after night. So it's like, do I need to upgrade? Not really. It's all good.
I'd be scared if you did get 120 hertz, because I can tell you right now, you're going to see me 7,000 milliseconds sooner than you had before. So
no. Oh boy.
Anyway, guys, we're sorry that we can't interact with everyone in chat, but everyone that's saying hello and greetings, we love that you're joining us here, and exclamation ask in the chat room if you want to submit a question for us to discuss. And thank you for any follows and subscribes and any bits or anything like that. I just won't see them right now because we're in talk show mode. So I appreciate your patience as we go through. We might as well go for the first one. What do you think, guys?
Sure. Let's do it. Brad, you want to start? Ladies first, or do you want me to go?
Yeah, I'll go first. I actually have one that I actually think might be better to get this rolling, just because we kind of touched on it a little bit with Max when he first, opened up. With all the sales recently, what was your favorite pickup? And out of those sales, were there any disappointments? Because we've just seen, hundreds and hundreds of sales, even free products. So any of you guys have particularly been keen to, or ones that you said, well, I'm kind of glad I didn't buy it anyway if it was free, or vice versa?
Maybe you guys can help me with this scenario, but I basically the Cirrus SR22 was a little bit disappointing. I'm just going to put that out there, but it appears that they just recently had an update, so I'm going to give it another go before I make final judgment. But sometimes as we know with Karen Auto, the visuals are fantastic, but just some of the other modeling, they need to improve a few things. But I want to ask you guys, there's a lot of talk about the Aerosoft A330 and it not being FS Labs like in the high-end quality, but I have refrained from purchasing that aircraft, so I'm wondering what your thoughts are on that, and would I be disappointed, I guess. But those are the two that come to mind.
I will say, I'll just say this quickly. I think me and Brad have a very different opinion on this airplane, partially because I think Brad loves it, and I have flown it probably 2 times since it first came out. I do need to do the update. It has been a little bit since I have flown it, but for me, I'm kind of being a little bit saying something that I really don't normally say, but the 330, I don't know, like, really, if I'm looking at the 330 or the 777, or if I'm looking at some of the long, like those heavy metal sort of thing, every time I load into my sim, I look at the 330 and I'm just like, I'd much rather go fly the 777, or I'd much rather go fly the 74 if I'm going to do a heavy sort of flight, or I'd much rather go fly something else than the 330. It just doesn't attract me to go fly that airplane. And I'm not really sure why, because I've heard good things about it. I see Tom flying it, Brad flying it, and it looks good. It just, for me, I'm not sure what it is, if it's a mental thing, but I just can't seem to get motivated to fly that airplane. And maybe it's because I flew it too early, which is, I think, a thing that happens quite often. You fly a plane when it first comes out and there's some issues, and then you kind of just like, I'm good, and you don't go back to flying it. But for me, I don't fly it that much, but I probably should give it another shot. But I know Brad has more insight on kind of that, because you've flown it recently, right?
Yeah, there's been a lot of updates. I mean, Aerosoft has been really, really good in terms of pumping out hot fixes, giving updates out through their updating tool. And then there was even a most recent one that was a full reinstall required because it was such a significant take on. But the FPS is outstanding, which is, I mean, from Aerosoft, it's not really much of a surprise. And Aerosoft, like their mission though is not to compete with FS Labs. It's like it's blatantly obvious so, because they continue to repeat the fact that they want to simulate the flying experience as a pilot. They don't want to give you this, full entire simulated ECAM with all these different pages, and if you have the doors open to the temperature dropping and stuff like that in the cabin. They're not really about that. They want to actually just emulate the experience of being a pilot. So they put in those gimmicky things like having your coffee appear and hearing your co-pilot sneeze, which I don't think it needs to sneeze that much, but besides the point, it gets me from A to B. I don't fly it like an Airbus because I don't fly it like an FS Labs because it's not the FS Labs. But when I do fly it like an Airbus, it does what I think an Airbus should do for the most part. It does the managed climbs, managed descents. It tracks the nav fine. Speeds are relatively speaking pretty okay in terms of management. So I think the autopilot mode is solid. It's got enough systems depth that I need for me personally. I don't care about failures and single engine ops and this and that. I'm not trying to achieve a type rating on it. It just works and it goes, and there's never really any problems that I've found with these latest builds. So I'm pretty keen with having it. I think the price is very fair. It's about $80 and it was on sale recently. So I think for what you're getting, and people kind of, maybe at least I do, I associate a larger plane with a higher price tag. It just seems like that's how it works in my head. And it's a large plane with a smaller price tag than your other premium Airbus products. And I think for that reason, it is a buy. However, if it was priced higher, like 100 plus, then it would be a little bit questionable. But I
Would you
think
spend
that
$100 on it, knowing what you know right now?
as a
You've flown
streamer,
it?
yeah,
Okay, you
I
would.
would.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Yep.
would. But
What about
that
as a
is just
non-streamer?
I don't know that I couldn't say unless I was really in that position, I guess, type of thing, right?
Yeah.
But I still think it's a buy because it's consistently updated. They're doing a great job. They did a nice job with kind of the overall Airbus experience, and it does go from A to B. It flies, your SIDs, your stars, ILSs, RNAVs, no hitches. But again, Aerosoft is not FS Labs, but I think, of course, we set the bar so high with them, it's really hard for anybody to even come close to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
I've said this before, how wonderful it is that we can see a product live on Twitch before we decide to buy it or not. And like you said, Brad, you're a streamer, so you kind of have to take a little more risk. And we all know that Max, cry, cree, will take out pretty much anything as a streamer to show the masses, what's what with each plane. So it's interesting. So I don't know if you answered the other part of the question there, Max. I'll turn it over to you. If there's any other aircraft that, I guess the question was, or were you disappointed, or was it also reverse? Or were you really, super impressed?
I will say that Brad actually helped me get a lot of the not help me, but doing a lot of flying with Brad and kind of flying with him, the discount seniors. I'm like, well, getting to Just Sim Brussels. I never really thought I would want to fly to Brussels because it's, Brussels, whatever. But buying that for $5 and seeing like, wow, like that's a good scenery. I really enjoyed that. And that was the first flight I did with him. And kind of when they started doing the discounts, I'm like, okay, this is actually kind of cool. And then I started picking up some airports that I just wouldn't really, I think, ever fly to that were $5. I was like, so I was impressed with that, the Just Sim stuff, which I'd never been a big Just Sim kind of buyer, but I am impressed with some of their European stuff. Two, I think my biggest disappointment, and this one hurt the pocket hard, maybe harder than it hurt the soul, was that I bought the Techno Brain Tokyo stuff and Osaka, and it's expensive scenery, and I had all sorts of problems installing it. And then I finally got it installed, and it corrupted my scenery CFG file for P3D. And it was just a kind of a pain for me. And that was kind of a tough one to swallow when I had spent $40 on the scenery, because I was really, Brad's been pushing me for over 10 years now to fly outside and fly in Asia, fly somewhere that's not quote unquote boring. And, and push myself to do that. And I was jazzed up. I was ready to go. I spent the cash, and then I kind of just had this sim disarray of, I couldn't even add any sceneries manually because did something to my sim. So I think that was kind of the highs of the Just Sims and the $5 sceneries that look really, really good. And then the lows of the Techno Brain, just disaster in Tokyo. So that's kind of on my level where I've been.
There you go. Anything for you, Brad?
I wish Max would have called me. I would have jumped right in the PC, helped him out, got that sim fixed right up. I would have scrubbed up and dug right in. I got no pages. There wasn't, any Brad did the surgery, nothing like that. It was just ops as normal. So kind of upset with Max about that. It's fine though. But I would say, yeah, Just Sim any day of the week. Just Sim is a buy at full price. They consistently put out insanely good-looking sceneries at an affordable price, and they perform exceptionally well. There's a very, delicate balance between looking good and performing well, and they have it nailed down. But the $5 sale, man, I got to say that is like a hard to resist option, because when you can buy these 19, 20 euro sceneries for €5, you're a fool if you miss it, But for me, the sim is about, going new places and seeing something different. And, I can only do the RNAV into San Diego so many times before I'm just like, okay, I want to go somewhere else and maybe fly a different airline or fly somewhere else, And so Just Sim and guys like those are opening up that chance for me with these recent sales, because I'm just picking up higher volumes of sceneries and therefore showing the guys on stream a bit more variety. So in terms of big pluses, Just Sim, those $5 sales are phenomenal. Disappointments, I haven't really had any overall with my flight sim stuff. I've had a couple of sceneries where I'm like, this is way more than it's actually worth. But that's just, I guess, the way they set the pricing, with maybe Sim Market and such taking cuts from them. Maybe it's marked up a little bit extra to counteract that. But I would say on sale, I've never picked anything up past a couple of weeks that's made me say I shouldn't have bought this. So pretty happy with my purchases.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did pick up the Dusseldorf and Stuttgart and like 4 other Just Sim. So I'm a new Just Sim airport, so I'll echo exactly what you guys are saying. It's fantastic stuff.
Yeah. The Hamburg stuff's good too. I like their Hamburg scenery. That was a good one.
It looks nice. Yeah.
Unfortunately, I bought it a week before the $5 thing.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. It's funny how sometimes it works, but you just keep an eye on it. I do check like every day to see what's on sale and see if anything happens. It's like 24 hours only, and they cycle what's on the sale. So I ended up picking up Palma de Mallorca recently. I've always wanted it, and it was like pretty highly priced. And I'm like, okay, I'll go here a couple of times. It's not really worth that for me, because I know I'll be there once or twice, a year basically. But I was like, €5. yeah, I'm definitely gonna buy that, and I'm super happy I did. Even though MK Studios just released their version of it, I'm like, this is still incredible. It's just him. I know it's gonna be amazing, and it's only €5,
Yeah.
so that was good.
There you go.
I think just one question I thought was a good one. It was the first one, but I thought it's just a good question because I think we all would have a different answer to it. Is what one piece of hardware / software has made your flight simming experience more enjoyable? And that was asked by Sim Crash Mike. And what about you? I'll start with you, Brad. What do you think? Because I think it's a we'll say from a streamer Brad, not non-flight simmer streamer Brad.
And you can name only one.
Yeah, I would say going into it, very simply, just the pedals, because I got X-Plane going with just a joystick and a throttle, and that was it. And I, frankly, at that point, didn't even know what the heck rudder pedals even did, right? And all I didn't even know that planes had tillers. Like, I was very, kind of like just unaware in that capacity. And I put them off for so long, like, why do I need them? The plane's flying fine, this and that. And then once I understood their purpose, and I picked them up and I used them, I really saw the tremendous difference in how it affects your flying in the heavy jets, especially in the small ones as well. And it's pretty critical to have those. So I always thought it's about what's on the desk, but for me, it's got to be what's under. And those pedals have been, I think, my most important purchase for just overall hardware in terms of the sim.
What about you, John?
Hands down, the Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS is not only is it the king of the hill with regard to joysticks. It's just heavy duty, high quality. The desk mounts that I have it clasped to the desk get it down to the right elevation. But the fact that I have so many knobs and switches and sliders and axes and everything, that it's just a game changer for me. I as you guys know, I have a trucking / Call of Duty pit behind me. I don't have the Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS, and I have a simulator over there that it's difficult to fly with another piece of hardware. It's like, but I can't spring for another one of these because unfortunately the Thrustmaster HOTAS Warthog is a very expensive device, but that would be my number one thing that has changed the game. It also doesn't hurt to have a high fidelity input device with regard to flares and landings, and how bad I do landings when I'm on my Logitech 3D Pro.
I think for me, just first off, the pedal situation. I'm proud to be an owner of the CH product pedals. Since I was 8 years old, I have gone through at least 6 or 7 of them, but they have just been. Listen, they take a lot of Brad. They take a lot of toll. There's a lot of banging. There's a lot of banging that goes on.
Yeah,
but they have been. I feel like with flight simming in general, and this is maybe just me personally, but I don't know how you guys will feel, but you get kind of bonded to a piece of equipment, or there's one part of hardware that you just kind of, it just becomes a part of you. And I feel like my CH product pedals have become a part of me as a flight simmer. So I've tried the crosswinds, which I think are great. I've tried other pedals, but I just can't seem to keep them for more than a couple weeks before I'm just like, I need to go back to my CH. They're just with me for life, I think. But regarding something that's changed my experience, it's a little bit different. And I've thought about this because what changed my simming experience, streaming experience in general, and it's my audio. It's going from when I had a really, really terrible kind of mic, it was just this big old mess. It was so hot you could hear. I mean, my mom talking down in the kitchen 3 floors below. And then I got this Focusrite audio mixer with this new mic, the new headphones. And for me, listen, we can all, the HOTAS is great. And I completely agree with John. Pedals, I completely agree with Brad. But for me, audio, and I know we always say audio, 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 but from just an immersion point of view, from a streaming point of view, from just kind of an overall point of view, I think when I changed to my Focusrite audio mixing box, got these headphones and got the mic, it changed a lot for me from a simming point of view and from a streaming point of view. So that'd kind of be my thing.
There you go.
So, yep. Yeah, Toto, it's coming, by the way. Yep, CH products, they're being installed in the 3+. So, yep, that will be coming, I think, in the next 16 months. So, all right, let's see here. Brad, do you have any questions that pop into your mind?
Any questions popping into my mind? I actually do. Max,
Okay.
because it just goes based on my answer here. And this is a very important question, right? Because I mean, this is actually, to me, I think it's a pretty important one here. When flying with pedals, do you wear shoes, slippers, or socks, or none of the above? I'm a socks guy. No socks, I think a little weird on the pedals. Shoes, I mean, that's a little clunky. You know, it's mine aren't like super heavy duty. I have the Thrustmaster, so they're not like super heavy duty. But socks, good grip, good comfort, easy peasy. I know Max is going barefoot up there. I've seen it. It's brutal, and yeah, there's some stinky pedals, but it's all good. It's all good. No worries. What are you gonna
Um,
do?
so well, I mean, for me, I'm a sock guy. I love
Yeah.
the socks. First off, I'm a little bit of a not a germaphobe, but I like taking my shoes off downstairs, and so I'm basically in my socks or my slippers. But I'm a sock slipper guy if I'm in the pit. Is high rock and roll. But yeah, I thought you were talking, Brad, about bringing a foot cam in at some point. I
I
heard
think I
rumors
might.
about.
Yeah, but right
Yeah,
now the cams are all sold out, so it's going to be pretty
that's right.
tough. But we are working on getting a foot cam for you to really see the action, how it all unfolds. It's going to be pretty intense. So
There you
be
go.
You know,
prepared.
back
Yeah.
in the day, Aerosim Gaming did have a foot cam, and he went
Yikes.
barefoot, and we saw the hair on his toes, and we could, you know, if you paid for an extra add-on, you could actually smell his feet through a little USB smell emitter. But yeah, I mean, I think the vast majority of simmers out there go in socks or something like that. But I personally always use socks. I can't go barefoot because I have
Yeah.
MFG crosswinds, and it just feels a little bizarre being barefoot. But I'm also I don't have a lot of great circulation right now for my feet because, you know, I'm an old guy. But I will say that one thing that I will sim in 99% of the time are my pajama pants.
Yep, you love your PJs.
Love the PJ pajama pants.
Yep.
Yep, you do. I completely agree. Well, and I feel like that we all kind of, I don't know, have our like, I don't know, our simming or attire. I don't know. For me, it's like you're not gonna like you have your kind of thing. You have your routine. When you go live, I don't know. Like for me, there's a certain list of items that like I need to have in the pit, like when I'm doing a flight or when I'm streaming. It's just I don't know. Maybe it's just weird, but I just feel like you have your things. I don't know.
Yeah,
What are your
vitamins,
things, Brad?
hero. Yeah, like a
Yeah.
beverage, couple of them, like, you know, a coffee, a water, Gatorades, you know, that type of stuff you gotta have. Because I mean, talking, you know, you need to drink something, right? I mean, you get like dry mouth after a while eventually if you just don't have anything to drink, and that drives me nuts. So pretty much just having a couple different drinks like here, so I don't have to go get up and get them. You know, nice and easy. That's pretty much my only list is just making sure I have. Yeah, that's it. A couple of different options to sip on. Yeah.
What about you, Mr.
Basically it.
JonFly? What's the simming attire or simming things?
As far as simming things, I would say that I really am enjoying this Stream Deck. I don't know if either of you have a Stream Deck yet,
Yeah.
but it's pretty nice to have for scene switching, audio switching, this, that, and the other. I can also display CPU percentages, etc. The one thing for me is I like you, Max. I can't seem to find the right temperature for this room. It's either too hot, too cold. The CPUs can make it boost up. So I seem like I'm taking my jacket off, taking it, you know, putting it back on, that type of thing. So
Yeah, my always my like meter now is if I'm starting to sweat, AC comes on. If not, I'm fine, sort of thing, because I can't balance it. It's just, I mean, you've been up here, John, a bunch of times. It's kind of isolated in this weird part of the house, but it's just I don't know what's happened if it's my PC's running hotter than it, but it just gets super like steamy and hot in here. And I always look down to make sure there's no smoke coming down. But we've been good so far. But it's you know it's interesting, and I'm unsure why, but it's yeah, I know that feeling. It's the temperature control is not easy for sure.
yeah.
Yeah, I keep it like 66 just because like I know the PC is going to heat it up, so I just keep it 66 pretty much, just nice and icy the whole way through. Super cold, keeps you awake. You know, I'm old, I get tired quickly and stuff, so I need to stay awake. Little cold air never hurt anybody. But John, same page, that Stream Deck, I was like, okay, what's the deal with this? Do I need it? Because you can assign hotkeys. So before that, I had my F keys on the keyboard as turning off the webcam, switching scenes, which is phenomenal. And if you have like a Corsair, you can use the G keys and whatnot. But I said $150 do I need this, right? I didn't get this microphone until recently, that sort of stuff. I'm very like late adopter in that capacity, but it was on sale one day for like 120. And I said, screw it, I'll do it. And it's been a great choice to have. You can just drop a bunch of links in there. You can, program it to do literally anything, not even just OBS stuff. You can, have it open up your games, your applications, send messages, this and that. So I think it's a cool piece of hardware to use, and it's definitely saved me, having to hassle over with OBS and scrolling up, looking for this button or that button. You just have a quick touch. So that's a pretty good tool, I think, to use as a streamer, just to have the flexibility of, keeping the show going, I guess.
Yeah.
So it's nice.
Yep, for
I think
sure.
another good question from Mr. Greg is, and this goes to, I think this is a good question. I know this is kind of touched on in a lot of the podcast, but I don't think it's this particular one in a general sense or in a more direct sense is simming or streaming the hardest part of the whole sim/Twitch experience?
It's a stream. It's a
Is it
stream.
a stream?
I mean,
Yeah.
anybody can, right? Well, look at it. Anybody can sim, and we've seen it. You guys have all seen your fair share of that sim knuckleheads that are coming in 900 knots, 5 million bounces, and boom, they're back up to 35K within seconds, right? Anybody can do the sim, but the stream part, in terms of what kind of, maybe, different designs you use, your layouts, how it's organized, right? That's what kind of draws people in. They might come by and say, well, this guy's pretty good. I'll watch him. He's doing, some good landings, or maybe he's bad. I'll watch him as well, type of thing. But I think it really comes down to the actual stream itself, because there's large gaps, guys who have high viewers, guys who have low viewers, right? The guy who has a low viewer count may be, an ATP pilot with 30,000 hours, and then there's a guy like me, with 0 hours, right? But, I'm decent at flight sim sometimes, so I think it's,
Yeah.
exactly ish, but I think it
Yeah.
basically has to do with the actual stream itself. Because as you can see, John does trucking, John does Wreckfest, right? The guys come back and they watch, and it's because he puts on the good stream, and of course, when Max finally pops up his ATC streams for us, guys are going to watch because it's about the stream and they want to see Max do controlling and that sort of stuff. So I think the flight sim's the easy part.
Yeah. What about you, John?
I find that it's some people, those people out there that are considering getting on VATSIM or Pilot Edge or IVAO or PosCon or whatever, they're a little bit intimidated by everything that's going on, and we all had to start somewhere. We all ruffled through that first radio call, but then you throw streaming on top of that. Oh my gosh! I'm guilty of it. You're in the stream, you're talking to chat, you miss a radio call, or you didn't quite understand that because you're, and then all of a sudden you have to sit there and say, oh gosh, I screwed up that taxi instruction, and oh man, there were 100 people watching. That was kind of embarrassing. And then all of a sudden it may even magnify it. So it's a crazy balance, and I think that some people do it very well. And then some people just flat out own up, like, yeah, I screwed up, whatever. And I think that makes it appealing to the people aren't as intimidated about streaming and flying. But it also adds in a level. When we're online, we're on PE or VATSIM, we also feel more pressure to do something correct. I rarely do it, but if I'm just flying on my own, not streaming, not online, it's like, who cares? Whatever, I'm gonna, FS economy, I'm gonna clunk that landing just because I need to go eat some, lunch or whatever.
Yeah.
So so it's definitely a thing where I sometimes make, you guys seen it. I make numerous mistakes, but
We all do.
I just think
It's
that
not,
yeah,
even
especially
IRL,
Brad.
I'm sure Max will know that as well. I mean, he's heard guys do it. He's done it himself. I can promise you that. Never when I've flown with him, which is amazing. He's always 100% spot on all the time. But you want to know what? Even if you mess up IRL, it's not the end of the world. So having that in a video game should be about 1 million times less stressful, because just knowing that guys who mess up in the real world, most of the time, it's just, okay, sorry, do this or do that, whatever. I'm sure Max can comment on that. It's not the end of the world.
100% agree. And this is actually a stream I did a couple, maybe like a month ago, which kind of, this is before I went in for my ATP ride and stuff. And it kind of, I remember this, I was flying home from Tampa, and I was thinking about it. And this is, for me, what sums up streaming and the challenges of streaming and flight simulation all in one. I was at Burbank. I was in, I believe, a 727 or a 732. I was doing one of the most complex slant alpha departures, the Van Nuys 3 out of Burbank, going to Vegas. And streaming, flying that departure, and just having to manage everything was by far 10 times or maybe 5 times harder than my actual ATP check ride. No, and I'm serious, like having to manage the stream, the departure, not mess up. I'm on pilot, so I don't want to get yelled at again. All of those things, right? It was hard. And I remember, I'm like, I am working hard here. Like there's, as a pilot, you have these like levels of saturation that you get to, and you kind of have to know when you hit one, when you kind of have to be like, okay, I got to bring it down here a notch, or I got to change something that I'm doing because I'm becoming too saturated, right? And I was at the point on that departure, I'm streaming, I'm working hard, I'm sweating. That was, what simming and streaming and just managing everything all at once just was a lot, right? And I think it was a good example of sometimes this stuff is harder than flying in the real world or doing, a bunch of other things. I mean, your brain is having to manage and think about so many different things at once. In a way, it's a very good brain exercise, but two, it's like, it was a very interesting just thing to think about and kind of go back in my head and think, wow, like there was so many things going on. There were so many things to have to manage. That was hard. That was challenging. And anyways, that was kind of, I think just my opinion on it. So it was good. Yeah.
Very cool. Thank you, Mustafa, for the raid. Welcome aboard,
Hey,
all
Moose.
the Moose
Yep.
fans. So, yeah.
Yeah, that pretty much settles that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One thing that I kind of want to just talk a little bit about Flight Sim Expo and it kind of being postponed until 2021. Obviously, on a personal note, I'm devastated inside because I don't get to give Brad and John and everyone a big hug and a good old handshake and share a beer with, or if you're Brian the pilot, an apple cider.
Yeah.
But just kind of, I think it was just my opinion for the best. Obviously, no doubt. I think it was very good that Evan and the whole crew who we love at Flight Sim Expo postponed it for 2021, which I know it will be bigger and better than ever. But what are your guys' thoughts? I mean, I think the biggest thing just for me was just not being able to see you guys and that thing. The Flight Sim Expo, whatever. We all FS Elite kind of keeps us updated, but it's really that for me that upset, me and all that jazz. But what about you, Brad and John?
Go ahead,
John,
Brad.
go ahead. Oh, all right. I'll go. Well, I get to see Max pretty much whenever, luckily. So I got that box. I mean, we're brothers, so we see each other quite a bit. We do. So luckily, in that capacity, it's not like we're missing much. The whole thing with TwitchCon getting canceled, that kind of stuff. Well, it's like, hey, it's fine. We'll go to Expo. Expo getting canceled. We're still going to see each other. I mean, it's going to happen, but it's the things about, John, those kind of guys who we just can't see. Only once a year we get a chance to do so. That definitely sucks. But I was for sure really, really hoping it wouldn't. But then as the weeks grew, I was really, really hoping it would, because I'm like, this just simply can't go on anymore. There's no possible way. I just accept the fate. I was like, even if it still goes on, I'm not going. Terrible idea. It would just be not a fun experience. So yeah, it sucks, but I'm already moving on from it. Whatever. Next year we'll still be there. We waited a year for it, so what's just one more year to give it, more time to mature and have more vendors, more exhibitors, a larger audience, things like that. So I'm trying to remain optimistic about it in that sense.
Yeah, I like you. I'm sad that I'm not able to see you and all of our other friends, some who we've met at expos past, and some that we haven't met that we were going to this year. I can name so many people that I was going to meet for the first time, and we have all these friends that we know in our Twitch chats and our Discords and in maybe a voice chat, but we haven't had a chance to meet them in the real world. So yeah, I think Flight Sim Expo 2021 will be bigger and badder and better and badder in a good way. I use that term. I didn't mind them waiting to do the cancellation. In fact, I originally said I don't mind if they wait till May to cancel, as long as there was no financial impact to them or others. I didn't, because at the end of the day, we didn't know back then, 3-4 weeks ago, what it was going to look like in May, or but if there was a financial impact, then yeah, cancel whenever you need to. But I will say this: if it's the middle of April right now, a month from now, where is that curve going to be? Are, for example, the casinos and hotels and resorts going to be back open in Vegas in the middle of May? I don't know. But let's say they were, and then things settleize and normalize come June. There's nothing against an informal get-together of a bunch of people that are in the flight sim community, whether it be Vegas or whether it be, Fargo. I'm not opposed to that as long as, the world is getting back to some sort of normalized state.
Right.
I'm not opposed to that. But right now, yeah, I'm not jumping on a plane. I'm not going anywhere. But who's to say what it's going to look like in 3, 4, 5, 6 weeks?
Yep. Well, to add on top, since you talk about 2021, this is to kind of put it out there, which I think is an interesting one. And I know what Brad's going to say, so I will start with John. But out of the destinations that they have offered for 2021, I know Brad wants Atlantic City badly, but he's about the only person in the world that wants Atlantic City.
I'm just lazy, dude.
But what? All right, so there's Atlantic City, there's San Antonio, there's San Diego, there's Chicago, there's Atlanta. Believe there's Vegas again, Orlando maybe. What do you guys? What are your hopes? What are your? Is there one that says?
Diego.
I would almost guarantee it's going to be Vegas in 2021.
I would really.
I would
San
say
Diego.
it's like a 95% chance it'll be stay in Vegas.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, I
kind of
they already organized and planned around a Vegas venue. It's just now a matter of having the world be able to get there and not have this human malware. Outside of Vegas, obviously I'm biased to the West Coast just because of simplicity, but I would love to do San Diego.
Yeah.
Go down there and tell our friends that tell our friend Josh to get back in the sim.
Yeah.
But they've said that it won't be in Vegas. I've never seen that.
I don't know.
Wow.
I haven't seen it either. But if that's so, I mean, I hope for San Diego. Of course, if it's in your home state, I would be absolutely a moron to not want to just drive to AC. As terrible as it may be of a city, I don't really care because, well, in that regard, I'm selfish. I don't have to take a plane. I don't have to do anything. I can just go home.
Nothing's open though. Nothing's open. That place is a ghost town, my dude.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's a ghost town.
That's like the East Coast Vegas. It's pretty busy.
Oh my God. It's not the East Coast Vegas. That's a big statement right there.
No, yeah, that is. That's the word. What's the East Coast Vegas then?
I know. I don't know. I feel like Mohegan's like the East Coast Vegas. Or like Foxwoods.
Casino. That's like
I know. Atlantic
I will go anywhere. Wherever they
I get it, but it's on the table, right? That's the thing. So I would be stupid if it wasn't something I'd want. But I'll also do San Diego. I don't really care for Vegas. I don't like it that much either. So I would rather it be in San Diego overall. Yeah. But I also would not mind AC. Just driving in, driving out. See ya. No cost. Easy in. Fun.
Yeah. Like for me, and this is just I don't know, maybe just weird, but like for me, I'd rather it be in obviously San Diego is my number one, but like Chicago or Atlanta. For me, I like to go away for Expo. For me, it's a trip, it's a vacation. For Chicago, it's a $300-$200 round trip on some regional. For me, it justifies a trip, a vacation, and I look forward to that. And it's like if it's Atlantic City, I'm like, all right, Mom, I'm gonna go to Atlantic City for the day, and I'll see you later. I'm gonna drive down it. Like for me, it doesn't I think it's nice for everyone to go somewhere and for us to all be, it's like, it just feels too close to home, if that makes sense. I don't know. Maybe I'm weird about that.
What would be a good city? Austin.
What? Too expensive. Boston's so expensive.
No, Austin.
Yeah.
Austin.
Oh, Austin. That's another one that's super expensive. But it's such a fun. I mean, you're
not going to get guys from Europe that are going to be dying to go take, a couple of plane rides to get to Austin type of thing. It has to be somewhere that I think is just a massive.
I just want to go there.
Metro.
I haven't been to Austin. I just hear good things.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's like a billion nice cities around, right? That are, big and small. But I think just in terms of attracting a large audience, they have to appeal to families. They have to appeal to single traveler groups. And it has to be somewhere that's easy and affordable to get to. You're not going to be able to take that London, to Austin nonstop. You're going to have to make the connections in Dallas and all that, Houston, whatever it might be. So it's more
I
cost
believe
more
BA
gas.
do have a direct from London to Austin though.
No way.
They do.
Really?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That's actually crazy.
On the Dreamliner. Yeah, they
Wow.
do. But I think San Diego would be epic. I think Chicago. I think Atlanta. I just, on a personal note, I really don't want to go back to Orlando. I just don't like.
Agreed.
I don't like
Yeah.
Orlando.
But we
I
will.
just,
We will. We'll go wherever it's being held.
We'll do
Of
it. We're going to
course,
complain,
of
though.
course.
We'll
Yeah.
complain
but
the whole
but
time.
I might complain a little bit just because Orlando is just
In
so
June
Orlando.
is it's kind of yeah.
The temperature was bad, and the rain and stuff like that. It was just like, ugh, that was.
But I
And
had
your
a
hair,
time of my
how many
life.
times did you complain about your hair frizzing up, Brad, with the humidity?
Oh
I mean,
no,
that
we
was
got it. No, yeah, no, we got a perm beforehand, so it was just like that the whole entire
mean,
time. I didn't even touch
yeah.
it. No, it was easy. It was great. Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, but Orlando was.
Yeah.
I mean, it was fun in terms of like attractions, I suppose, more so for families for sure. But Orlando, not my number one Florida destination for sure. I like Tampa
agree.
better.
Yeah, I agree. So anyway, I think so. San Diego, are we all in agreement? San Diego
Yes,
is kind
that
of our
would be
number one.
beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Okay.
Yep.
All right,
Yeah.
cool. All right, let's see here. All right, this is a good one by Mr. Scotty Bob. I've learned so much watching your streams. Do you guys ever watch other streams and learn something new? And I'll kind of add to that. If there is something that you've learned recently, what was it from another person's stream?
You want to start it off, Max?
No, John, Brad.
I mean, obviously I watch both of you constantly, and it was just, what was it, Thursday night. I was just asking some technical questions of Brad, and he was just answering them on the fly. So not only am I learning things from watching Max do a certain procedure in a plane, but I'll go same with Brad. But the fact that I can go in and ask you a question and you give me that answer, that's pretty cool. Because, and then there's other people like 777 Bob and other people that just have an encyclopedia range of knowledge for our sims. And I even said this on your stream. I said, Twitch is basically tech support, right? Not that the streamer can always give the answer, and sometimes people go a little too far with swaying the topic to help them with their certain situation. But a quick, ask, hey, this, that, and the other. So I learn a lot, and I'll say that it used to be that there were, I would say there was a dozen guys that I would go to regularly, but it's actually widened out. So I'm up to about maybe 20, 25 people that I'll jump into and watch, and learn, whether it be something that the other day I learned that a certain, aircraft can, a shortcut key for this, that, or the other. So there's a lot of stuff. I point you to any of the anyone that's doing proficient flying on VATSIM or Pilot Edge that streams with a webcam and good audio. I'm usually there.
Yeah.
With
What about
a
you,
few
Brad?
exceptions. Yeah, I think I learned. I think I learned quite a bit from the guys who have learned quite a bit. Sometimes, watching Max, I'll understand a bit more about like approaches or things like that when he's like explaining them, or when he pulls them up, and how he actually ends up flying them. I find myself in a situation where I'm like in a 717 last week, and I'm trying to fly a VOR approach, and I'm like having this like mind blank about like, well, wait, I don't think I've ever actually even done a VOR approach in the sim, and I was just kind of like a little bit like, well, maybe I should have thought about this beforehand type of thing. But watching guys like Black Box, Offsked Descent, even these guys who have the real experience, I think I value from more, because they might put themselves purposely in situations that I might find myself in accidentally, and then I know what to do. And so I find great value in that, knowing I'm able to kind of have that knowledge and adapt and act based on that. So I like watching a lot of the real guys when I can, that or even guys who are just sim pilots, but they simply know so much, like guys like 777 Bob. We keep bringing him up, but I mean,
He's a legend.
the guy
Yep.
knows a lot about a lot of planes, and it's cool to be able to ask him. And it's not just about the real stuff, it's about the sim shortcuts, like clicking on the flaps in the 747. It just sets it right there for you. It's those little tiny tricks and tips that we get through watching other streams. So I think it's quite nice to be able to take that and then spread it into your own channels. So
Yeah, I agree. I think two things pop into my mind. One was just from streaming and learning, especially now with me starting to do the ATC stuff, watching a lot more of the air traffic control streams. I'll name one. He's actually my mentor at ZNY, but it's his name's Joe, digital engineer on Twitch, and watching him stream, New York, it's the airspace that obviously I'm controlling in. It's like just watching that, and it's like obviously I enjoy a stream, but also I'm learning someone that has a lot of experience and a lot of stuff like that. Kind of that's been very helpful to me, and that's kind of I think my first time that I've like really got not instruction, but like I really kind of learned, quite a bit about watching someone stream and starting to pick up tips and tricks and all that stuff. So that's been one for me that's been very helpful. And two, I mean, I remember this. I was doing the Power Set VA monthly fly-in last month, and we got like 7 holds on the way to DCA. It was a mess, and I kept doing the putting a hold in the FMC the right way, but I had to do it like in 17 different steps to get there because that was the only way that I knew how to do it. And then who comes in? Boom! Right away, fly 787. Who has flown the 777 IRL? He says, Max, do it like this. It's 2 steps. Boom, boom. Exact the same way that I did a 17-step thing to get to the final result is how Mr. Tom came in. Fly 787 said, Max did boom, boom, 2 things done in. That's all she wrote. And it's stuff like that that is like really just awesome and just what it's about. Invaluable. And people sharing information and knowledge. Again, 777 Bob, we keep bringing him up. He has been the knowledge he is incredibly helpful. He is, to me, become a fixture of the community from just wanting to share his knowledge. And I think that's something that is just, people give their time and they, you don't have to, but you want to do this, right? And I think that's been super generous. And there's just there's so many people that do that, but I think those are kind of the 2 or 3 things that I've learned and the most about. And
rumor
really
that Fly 787 Tom is going to stream potentially.
Really?
So that'll be
that's awesome.
That'll be pretty good.
He also got Call of Duty recently as well, so he is.
Oh wow!
Wow. Yeah, he is diving right in, no holds barred.
I would like him to do another full by the book every step of the way 787 stream with me live. With talking to me on Discord as we go through things again. So yeah, good stuff out there. We're lucky to have these real world pilots like Max out there that are also streamers and giving us a lot of insight and what a wonderful time we live in to have this platform, Twitch, for sure.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, I still think it goes back to, we can fly an airplane, right? We can load up in the FS labs, we can load up in whatever airplane, but then, and like, we hit a button, we're like, oh, I don't know what that does. What did I just do? And then boom, Twitch chat comes, no, that button does this, boom, 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 try this, try that. And it fixes that. We have some fault or some, I don't know, they remember like some APU issue that, no, fix this, boom, boom. And it's like that, like there's so much knowledge. It's not just that people, they have so much knowledge about these airplanes and sims. It's so refreshing to see that. And I'll be stuck. we'll be on the ground for half an hour. I can't figure this out. What's going on? And someone just, no, try this, boom, 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 fixes it. And I think that's super, super awesome to see that. And everyone's so, interactive and so engaged in the person stream, John, Brad's, my stream. I think we can all say our communities and people that watch are so engaged and really they want to be a part of it, right? They're not just there just to kind of diddy around, like they want to be a part of the stream. And I think that's what makes it so great from a streamer's point of view to stream, because we're in it together, right?
Yep.
I'm doing our thing, you're doing their, everyone's just in it together. And I think that's why, it's a really, really good thing. So
if any of you guys want to ask a question, go ahead and type in !ask in the chat and you'll get a link to a form that asks for you. There you go, Max. Thank you. So just click on that link and put a question in the queue. Do we have another interesting one ready to go?
Brad, go ahead. Do you have anything interesting?
Actually, I thought it was kind of interesting to me, the question about dead stick bush flight sim. Anybody have any interest in picking that up? I know, like for me, I don't do a lot of GA flying, but I think there's something satisfying about you know, having another new sim that's dedicated to one specific idea only, which would be bush flying and exploring some pretty cool little places, and just trying a different type of flying as opposed to just putting a heavy jet down on some class Bravo's runway type of thing. Have you seen anything about it recently? Any interest?
As
I
a
haven't even
streamer,
heard about
I
it.
think I might try it. I would say that it would. What they should do is probably come to Twitch and probably give it to 25, 30 different streamers for free just to showcase it live, and if it has the the really solid multiplayer functionality, and it's visually good, and it's a good model, then yeah, I'm not opposed to it, but I'm not holding my breath for it. But
I haven't even heard of it, to be honest. So
No?
I haven't. Is it? No, I haven't
Yeah,
even heard of it.
it looks really good. It's like a really high fidelity looking simulator that's focused primarily on bush flying in places like, you know, I don't know exactly, I'm just guessing Pacific Northwest, Alaska, but it emulates like realistic situations. So it's not just like you load up in your Zebo and you go. You know, the aircraft is in the same state you left it in. There are things to take can take into consideration about. This is like Todorico kind of depth level stuff that you wouldn't just think of when you're flying the sim. Is what I'm guessing they're trying to implement into this simulator. You need to do things like, I think you need to pack food or water if you're going somewhere. That type of
Wow,
stuff. I
that's
haven't
really
read too
cool.
much about it. Yeah, but it's just a different kind of flying. I forgot. I haven't looked at it in a while, but I
I
think there's
think
some new
I think you're going to
stuff.
start to see a lot more, for lack of a better term, gamifying our flight sim add-ons. One example, in fact, that brings up a question, if we don't mind a segue. Maybe give me your opinions on what you've seen or viewed of PosCon. And the reason I'm going the PosCon question route is they're gamifying online flying, meaning that a controller and a pilot is going to receive points and scores and feedback from other pilots or other controllers, and there's going to be rankings, etc. But outside of that gamifying, and maybe touch on what you guys think about gamifying in general, going beyond just the flight from point A to point B. But what have you observed with regard to streams or YouTube videos on PosCon? What are your thoughts?
I mean, I'll just start off saying I think PosCon from their latency, their fidelity, like, all their like hardware. I've seen some of the YouTube stuff. I've seen some Twitch stuff. Some guys that have done it. I mean, it's very, very quick. Everything looks super seamless. Like, I think that's a really, really cool and good thing. I think from a gaming it point of view and doing a point system and all that stuff and having pilots rate other pilots and kind of give feedback sounds like a giant disaster waiting to happen. And that's just my own personal opinion. Just because I don't know. I just think that just sounds like a disaster. And especially from a controller rating a pilot and a pilot rating a controller, that just sounds like just a big old mess waiting to happen. But from their fundamental framework of a software, and I think some of the stuff I've seen, it's very, very impressive, and I think it's cool stuff. And I think they're really doing some interesting things. But I think from the gaming it and point systems and all that stuff, just is just for me something that I think will be a tough one to get across, and also just how do I say this in a politically correct way or not? Just a bit of a mess waiting to happen, to be honest. I mean, just on a side note, me and Brad, we're talking, yesterday, and we're talking about kind of the ACAR system, right? And, on Power Set, our ACAR system is not the best, right? It's work in progress. We will be building a fully custom ACARs at some point. That will happen. But it is kind of, just on a ACAR's point of view, to get dinged if we miss the lights at 10 and it's at 13. It's like, oh man, I missed it. Whoopsie, but we get dinged for that, right? Which I get is not, and it's like, do I constantly want to be just getting dinged the whole time, just flying on a network? You know what I mean? And it's just like, it's different if it's a VA and we have that stuff. But I think when it's that and there's pilots rating other pilots and it gets competitive and there's a lot of macho testosterone energy, Brad, all that kind of stuff. And it just starts, it just gets, I don't know. I just think that is a potential issue that I could see festering. But Brad, I know you'll have a fascinating point to talk about that issue.
Oh no, I don't. I don't really know much about it, to be honest with you. I
No, but what
might
about
try.
the gaming point of view about point system? Like, would you want to have
No,
the
I don't want to
258?
gamify
That
my
was a
system.
hard landing. I'm dinging you 25 points,
I
sir.
hear enough from you as it is. So I get that on a daily basis from you. So I am all gamed out in that perspective. But I don't
No,
want
but
to
you know
take
what I mean.
my.
On a serious
I
note,
know.
like,
I know. I
would
know.
you be upset if someone said 258? Yeah, that looked rough, my dude. Minus 30, and I'm talking ATC, and that's going on your record.
I would definitely laugh because I think it'd be funny. And I think it would just be. I think it'd be very funny, to be honest. But I mean, of course, it would happen. You know, I'm gonna get dinged. It's just how it works. But
I think that
what I want my sim to be like that.
yeah.
No, I don't want my sim time, the time that I actually like really value spending, flying online with my friends and stuff like that. I don't want that to then all, kind of be condensed into something like that, which I think is pretty trivial. And I would even dare to say pointless. I don't understand why you need to, you know, rank or pointify flight sim. Again, it's a non-competitive simulator. I guess you could make it competitive if you want by doing things like that. But for me personally, I use this time to chill out, relax, and have fun. But that is not my definition of fun, personally speaking. So,
I'll just
yeah.
to clarify a few points on it. It's going to be hard landings are not going to be a part of the feedback's point system. It's going to be more that things like, for example, a pilot in front of you during an event or whatever kept doing the wrong instruction, wrong altitudes, wrong procedures, and the fact that the controller may leave some feedback, which may be a negative point rating or whatever, is going to encourage that pilot to be better at this, that, and the other. It's also going to be also on the controller side. If I go to digital engineer and he's controlling me into Philly or New York or where JFK or wherever, and he's doing an amazing job, and I want to compliment on his spacing, his entrail spacing between such and such and such, people are actually going to go back and review the feedback before the points are allocated. So we know that we love VATSIM, we love Pilot Edge, we love these networks. I think a little bit of when there's some behaviors that happen on VATSIM that I would like to see happen less, and I think with that system in play and also this ghost mode, the ability for the controller, any controller on POSCON down the road when they have ATC later this year, they'll be able to put a plane in the ghost mode so other planes won't see them, whether it be on the taxiway or in the skies or whatever. I'm kind of interested to see how it all plays out. I can see how some people will be offended, and there could be some drama, but at the same time, I wouldn't mind certain controllers and certain pilots, getting good and constructive criticism. Back to them we'll see.
I hope there's going to be a thing that, like, for John, I mean, Brad, we've all flown airplanes that are new that then it has a simism, right? Something goes a little funky funk, and you're on a 40 heading, and next thing you know, the plane turns on a 90 heading, and what?
Yeah,
you're going to get dinged for that.
I think there's potential for you to get reported. They could review it.
Course.
You could.
Why do I need to deal with that? That's
you don't have to. You can just ignore it. I'm just saying, if a guy's on there that has a sheet of deviations, maybe it's time for him to rethink going into an event, for example. I'm just a little bit more.
That's fair.
Right now, there's no recourse for anyone. Like, for example, on the FNO last night and into Boston, as I was on final for 2.7, there was a plane that was slewing on the intersecting runway. Like, he was slewing, and there's no recourse. There's no there. Someone just said, "Well, congratulations, you figured out teleporting," is what the controller told him. Right? I didn't know if it was a plane taking off or what was going on. It's kind of cool that they'll be, right now, I guess they have the term dot wallop, but I think they need a supervisor and maybe put the control, put the trust a little more broadly across the spectrum for people who are obviously making massive, the plane turning accidentally the wrong way may not justify getting put into ghost mode. But if you're slewing on the runway during an event, that's probably justifies ghost mode.
Fair. That's fair.
But I like
And I
the right now it's a group flying mecca. I had problems with JoinFS. I've had a few issues with FS Cloud. I think during the beta, I think that the POSCON is great for group flying, and I wish them well. It's like this new sim comes out, it's creating competition. So here we have more competition, which is getting people to do things, right? Make their systems better. Things happened that VATSIM said, oh, we got to update our codec to stay relevant. And they did it. So
yeah.
But I love VATLove. There's a VATLove emote.
Listen, VATSIM has been, just on a side note, I mean, I'm probably 85% VATSIM now. I think, Brad, I think you're pretty much close to being that also.
Definitely already, yeah, so.
We love Pilot Edge. We love Keith. We love Tim. We love the whole crew. But, from what I've, and I never was a believer really, but when the codec got better, being able to fly globally and have full ATC, have ATC if it's in, Gibraltar, if it's in London, if it's in Miami, if it's in New York, it just is such a, I don't know. I like that, to be honest. And I think it's been really, really cool, and have ATC and traffic and all that jazz. But I think the VATSIM, I think it will be tough with VATSIM, where VATSIM is right now, with the controlling, which is honestly, I think, really, really good, to, the latency of the airplanes, which they're going to keep improving. I think it will be
CSLs, the model
Yes.
matching.
I think it will be tough to get guys in a mass sense to go to POSCON, because VATSIM has made so many improvements. Pilot Edge and VATSIM, two separate things. We all can agree that. We could talk about the two differences in the two networks for days and days and days. But those are, in my mind, two separate networks. POSCON VATSIM is, for me, not like that at all. They're competing in a sense against each other. And I think that will be what will be interesting and different. So, yeah.
Yeah, and it all comes down to how many VATSIM controllers are willing to control on POSCON. I think that's what it comes
100%.
down to.
Yep.
But if you guys haven't noticed, the background behind Brad, Max, and myself is the VATSIM USA North American map that's live right now. How wonderful is it that the whole eastern seaboard is lit up with controllers? Yep. That's fantastic. And you're seeing, I can take this globe and I can, go over to Europe, for example, and look how many planes are flying around Europe and the whole world. It's just the level of activity. We've got some great options, and yeah, I'm in the beta for POSCON. I think I'll be on all. The only network that I probably won't get on is Iveo, and I can't nail down why. Maybe because I don't know. I just can't. It's just, to me, it's going to be the 3 for me right now.
Yep.
But anyway, we can move on to another. Thanks for chiming in there. I know we're starting to see a little bit of POSCON on Twitch. Yeah.
Here. Okay, this is a good one. Twitch username is anonymous. Why do most streamers fly only jets?
I'll give my answer right off the bat.
Go.
Easy enough. Because I can't fly them. Very simple. I do mostly commercial ops, because if I want to go fly a Cessna, I'll just go right over to the airport, rent a Cessna, and be on my way. It's something that's attainable, and something that is, frankly, in that capacity, uninteresting, and I can do it for real. I can't go down to Newark Airport and jump in a 737 and go fly off and do whatever I want. That's just not legal, right? So for me, flying the big heavy stuff as a single pilot, flying into places, like Gibraltar or Lowy, that's what's really fun, taking heavy metal and bringing it in on those fun approaches. If I want to do low and slow flying, I'll go do it IRL. So for me, it's just one of those things that I like to kind of do what I can't do IRL, in the sim.
Yeah, I would say that we tend to, the average Twitch viewer tends to go watch planes that he flies. And so I think the majority of simmers out there, regardless of what platform you're simming on, the majority of them fly jets. They fly tubes, they fly big jetliners. And then you have a little bit lower of a number flying, say, regionals or turboprops, and then it goes on and on and on. You do have a finite amount of people that do only GA. I know for a long time I was doing so much GA, and I had some hardcore people in there that wanted to see GA streamed, and they often commented, there's 25 people live, you're the only one doing GA. And I still will do GA. I did the JustFlight Piper Warrior the other night in Vulcan, and I dabble in that. And you guys love the TBM, and
We do.
The Baron, for example, is a great plane. I know you love that, Max. And
I do love the Baron, the rep.
yeah,
Absolutely, 100%.
And but I think it comes down to the reason why you see most streams on Twitch or YouTube or whatever platform are doing jets. It's because we, as simmers, mostly fly jets.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's about high fidelity simulation. I mean, listen, I think we all can agree most of the jets in our simulation, repertoire or in our, hangars are the FS Labs and the higher fidelity sims, right? We enjoy flying that, the PNBGs, the advanced stuff. But for me, like the Yak for me is super awesome because you know what? You can go and fuel up the freaking thing. You have to crank the prop 15 times before you can even try and start it. It's all of that stuff that is cool. So for me, I would say I obviously dibble and dabble in the GA, but majority of why I fly jets is because partially what Brad said, I don't fly A320s IRL. I think they're super cool, all that kind of stuff. But two, because I like the high fidelity, highly advanced simulation. The TBM, I can fly that thing any day of the week because it's so advanced. The systems are so modeled. Everything is just so good about that airplane. In GA, the majority of GA airplanes take away A2A, take away Totos, take away, a couple other ones. They're just pretty, average. They're okay, but they're just pretty, yeah. And I just feel like for me to get really motivated and get going, I need to get some immersion and keep that, keep immersive sort of thing. So that's kind of why I guess mostly fly jets per se.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do we get some really good questions coming in, guys? So thank you to everyone who are kind of getting these questions submitted and stuff. This is another good one by Mr. Cajun Cacti. How do you decide what you fly and where you fly from? Sometimes I sit there not sure what route or plane to fly.
Yeah,
Brad,
that's
John?
a really good question. Sometimes I don't even know. I do take like a good, not like a good chunk of time, but I take like, some time to think about the flights because I have to want to do it. It has to be interesting to me. And I also will hope that those who watch would enjoy it. So trying to keep things fresh in terms of places we have not been recently, planes we have not flown recently. But sometimes I also just want to take, a 737, into San Francisco and just do that classic route. There is something satisfying about that to me. But the other day, for example, I was sitting in Discord talking with some guys, and one of the guys said, where are we flying tonight? I'm like, I don't know. And he said, what about Australia? And I'm like, boom, perfect. We're going, just fresh idea right there. Haven't been there in a while. Spur of the moment. And, it ended up happening because I just loved it so much. So I think for me personally, it's about the variety of where I'm flying and what I'm flying in and stuff like that, and trying to maybe kind of cycle through my scenery, so to speak, and make sure I'm, getting my money's worth and that sort of stuff as I fly through them. So I do a little bit of planning, but not over the top where I'm sitting there, smacking my head saying, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Type of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I try to do something that I haven't done before. Obviously, we can't do a new plane every time, but I think all three of us will tend, when a new major plane comes out, we want to stream it. And so we pick it up and we stream it. Then there's some minor planes that we pass on, then some we go ahead and pull the trigger on. Right now, because of all those, we talked about it earlier, those Just Sim airports, I have plans and I've put them on a list. Hey, when it comes time to stream the FS Labs again, I want to go from this Just Sim airport to this Just Sim airport. So a lot of it revolves around maybe some sales that happen that made me pick up some sceneries for down the road. And so I have a roadmap. I've also built up a rotation of planes because I don't necessarily want to fly the NGXU 3 streams in a row. I want to throw in a Flight Factor 757, or I want to throw in a TBM or this, that, or the other. So I've got a rotation. So I'm trying to, but I'm super happy that that again, I'll say it 1,000 times, that NGXU and the fact that PMDG offered a credit toward the NGX3 in the new sim that brought me over to P3D, and I love that I have the variety of both sims now. I see you two going less X-Plane, exponentially, it seems like, but...
I flew X-Plane last night.
Oh, good. Oh, yeah, the IXEG, that's right, with the new sound pack. Yeah, there you go. I would say that, again, it comes down to something new. Vulkan came out, I had to stream that. Oh, V5 came out, I had to do a little stream on that. New utilities, this, that, and the other. That's what kind of dictates where I'm going and what I'm doing. And then, of course, sometimes FS economy will put me in the middle of somewhere really random. And so I will decide, like, maybe the morning of a stream, or the night before, the day before, the morning of, I'll decide what to do. That's kind of...
Yeah. For me, I mean, you guys kind of know how I kind of do my streams. It's a bit of a wing show. I mean, I probably pretty much, how I go live is, and what kind of gets me going is if I'm in the, in the mood to stream, because for me, you guys shouldn't watch it. I feel like we shouldn't watch me stream if I don't want to stream, right? I want to be able to be here, because otherwise it's no fun to see me miserable. So I'll say, I'm in the mood to stream. Yeah, I got a little bit of extra time. I don't have to take Goose for a couple hours. Like, I don't have any responsibilities. Let's do it. So I'll look on Sky Vector. I'll look on some ATC. I'll kind of spend about 10 or 15 minutes kind of saying, that'd be kind of cool. Like, I'll get the route normally, pretty much first, unless it's like a long haul. And I'll get the route. I'll get the route. That'd be kind of cool. There's maybe some good weather. There's some good airports. I'll look at, is there ATC? Oh, if there's ATC, that goes up even higher in my esteem. And we start to think, okay, and the puzzle and the pieces start getting put together. Do I have scenery for those airports? So it's kind of like, route, weather, ATC, scenery. It all kind of has to kind of, in a way, make love together at the same point for it to kind of, really, make it happen. So
there you go.
That's kind of how I kind of, get it in my head. So that's kind of how the pieces come together for me.
That's going to be...
I'm going to use that phrase for the next couple of weeks.
Though.
Yeah,
it's true.
Okay, guys, we're making love to the sim tonight.
We're making love. No, that's a fair point he brings up, though, because it does have to gel. But like for me, I know that I don't care if there's ATC or not. I'm still going. I want to go. ATC is an added bonus type of thing. But I think that, sometimes they do have to gel together in that same capacity. Maybe not so far as, making love, but they do have to definitely, gel together.
Well, get along. If they're not making love, they have to get along.
Okay,
perfect.
Along. Yeah.
So Brad streams, they have to get along. They're not going to make love, but they have to get along and not have beef.
Yeah, not before dinner. Dinner.
The other day, though, when you were taking off from that Italian airport and the sun was it setting or rising? I think it was setting.
Yeah.
And that looked like a making love moment. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I mean, John, back of the bus, I don't know what goes on. They only pay me to fly up front, so I have no, doors locked and everything. No idea. Could have happened.
There you go.
No idea, though.
There you go. I like it, though. I think and that's part of the fun too with this hobby, is that planning is kind of fun, going on sim brief and looking at the route and, and you guys are also in a fortunate position that I've seen numerous times where if ATC is not online, they actually come online because they see you're coming. They see your route. They see you're streaming. They're like, oh, I'm going to light up this tower or this approach or center or whatever. Yeah. That's kind of cool to see, actually.
I know for a fact that Brad pays the Jacksonville Center guys with some white envelopes before he comes online to make sure he gets the shortcuts. So I know that firsthand that does happen. And confirmed on frequency. So
well, it's the same thing with CH products handing you the envelops. CH has got
no.
In fact, they're gigantic envelopes.
I've had 6 of these things. We love the nut crunchers. Yep.
Big old envelope from CH.
Oh yeah, that's a gold envelope. Yep.
So I know this has been asked a couple times, and I see it popping up here by Flying for Life, and I know a couple people have asked this question for him on his behalf. It's kind of backed up here, but first off, thank you for your service. He says, I'm in the U.S. military station in Japan. It's difficult for me to catch streams from the U.S. or other countries based on the time zone. What do you think about streaming times? Do you prefer specific times to stream or not? So. Brad, John.
I think Brad's the only one that's regular. He is Tuesday, Thursday, with an occasional Sunday or regular Sunday. I think that you and I are kind of like, hey, we're kind of random. I mean, I'm Saturday and Sunday morning, I'm pretty regular, but during the week, I'm very, very random. And I'm never late at night, and so I don't get those that Asia or Pacific waking up. and when I'm waking up in the morning, Brett San is, turning off his stream because he's in Guam. But it's nice when we get someone who's in a different part of the planet who's a night owl, and we can catch their streams, or numerous times we have guys that will say in our chats, "Oh, it's 4 a.m. guys here. I better go to bed," because they've been watching our stream or playing Call of Duty with Brad and crew. And I will say that it's pretty cool that we have such a global audience that can tune in when we are available. But I don't really stream, late into the evening ever.
But what's your thoughts on it? Do you think it's important to have stream times? Do you think it's not important to have stream times? Like, is there I feel like JonFly, you're a bit of the kind of the godfather of, streams, and how, you have a really good opinion on how they should be done.
I personally think the best route, the best way to go about it is to have a schedule if you can. Mm-hmm. But several people, whether it be life obligation or just family or work or whatever, they can't do that regular schedule thing. When my 2 and a 4-year-old are a little bit older, maybe I'll be able to refine my schedule. But I would say, as a streamer, if you can do it, it's the preferred route, because people will carve out time for a Pizza Thursday. I'm just saying, and I'm being dead serious about it. Yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Brad? I know you're hardcore schedule guy, but what, it works for you, right? I mean,
it works. It works. It's very simple. It's worked. It always has worked, and it probably always will work in that capacity, just because it has for the past almost 3 years now. But I like having things planned out in my life. I'm not one of those where I'm going to sit down here and say, I'm doing this today, this, and this, but I want to know, at least at a very minimum, kind of like what the outlook looks like for me and stuff like that. And I know I can get the streams in Sundays, Tuesdays, and Thursdays. It took some filling out for a while. It was 5 days a week, then down to 4, then down to 3. And I kind of felt out what days were best in terms of giving me some time to chill out, and also time to, spend with like friends and family and all that sort of stuff. So I think for me, the schedule works really well in my personal life, but it also seems to jive with those who tune in. So they've kind of both meshed really well in that capacity, because it seems to work for a lot of people, which is nice. But I also, ended up kind of planning it around also watching guys that I want to watch, right? I don't always, if Max had a schedule, I would not want to necessarily be streaming on the same nights that he would be, because then I won't ever get to like watch him or see him unless I'm watching a VOD, which, it's a lot of work. Being there live is one thing, but watching the whole VOD, a lot of work going on. So if Max was like, I'm doing a stream, Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday, I would, I'd be like, okay, I got to revise it or something like that. Cause you want to watch those you hang out with, those you like and you're friends with. But for me, the schedule just happens to work really well with my personal life and stuff like that. So, and it just always has. Yeah.
Yeah. I will say I am the polar opposite of Bradley in that sense. For me, from my personal life to work, is I can't have a stream schedule, just because it just doesn't work, right? So if I know I'm probably going to go live, and I'll be in front of my computer, and I'll say, I want to go live, and I could get Streamlabs, get a flight pick, sceneries, all my stuff done in 5 to 10 minutes. That's how I plan when I'm probably going to go live, unless there's an event like, we've been super awesome, Brad and myself, is to do these, kind of, collaboration streams and stuff. So like, that's different, right? If there's an event or there's something planned out, like these awesome podcasts that we're doing, obviously that is a whole separate thing. But a CitationMax stream per se is, I don't know when I'm going to stream. And if someone says, are you going to stream on Friday night and it's Monday? My honest to truth answer, and this is not any BS, this is strictly, I don't know. And I think and I think that's in a way what makes us so diverse and different, is we all have different styles, different ways how we do it, different schedules. It just doesn't work. But I will say with Brad and John, like, I just on a personal note, Saturday mornings, I know, getting out of bed, having my cup of coffee, I'm going to go on Twitch, and I'm looking for one person, and that's JonFly, because he's like, you know what I mean? I love that. Like, for me, that is just, I just know on Saturdays and Sundays, JonFly is going to be live when I get up, and it's just, I'm going to have my lunch watching John. It's just going to be a really nice experience. I just know that. And I know on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, Brad's going to be live. And I know from 6 to 11, unless he's doing his short holes and then crashes 5 minutes after takeoff from Bermuda, I know he's going to be live, right? So I know all of those things are in, my mind, and that is nice from a viewer point of view. I think that's beautiful, and I love the Saturday Sundays. I love the Tuesday Thursday Sundays with Brad. But from myself, from a personal level, it just doesn't work for me. As it works for Brad, it doesn't work for me, and that's what makes us all different, and all that kind of jazz. So,
Yeah. So I think we summed it up. If we could do it, do it. If you
yes.
can't, I mean, I am somewhat regular on the weekends, but during the week it's
A lot of fun,
random and I will say that I probably until I tire of it, I probably will be doing the FNO and probably just one leg, mostly because I have guaranteed top-down coverage at a major airport, and that is to me is really nice. Launching a stream and having an approach controller or center or tower or whatever go offline, that's really deflating to me.
It is.
So it's almost you. And then there's times where you're like, I didn't want any control. I picked this place because I wanted to.
Yes,
and then,
many a times.
And then the opposite can happen. But I think I will be doing like that one flight on within 300 or 400 miles of the major airport on an FNO. And I know that Friday nights are extremely busy on Twitch. I'm down in the pit and I'm having fun on a Friday night, one flight, and then of course our regular Saturday, Sunday action, with an occasional during the week here and there. But yeah, it's nice. And so yeah, like I say, sum it up. If you can do a schedule, do it. If you can't, don't.
Yeah, pretty fair.
Yeah,
pretty fair. Here's a good one. Just came in actually. I kind of like this one quite a bit. I think the answer is pretty simple and easy, but I'm curious about, what you guys have thought about maybe kind of your purchases in the past and maybe how this kind of translates not just to the future, but the past year. Would you be willing to spend more money on a study level aircraft? And at what point would you say it's too much? Prices are, I guess we can't say right now they're going up, a lot of sales and stuff, but I mean, study level that, it's kind of a gray area. What, determines
that's super
an
gray.
aircraft. Very
I'll tell
gray.
you what.
Everyone has a different opinion.
Yeah.
If this is not going to happen, but if Flight Sim Labs said, "Hey, JonFly, if you pay us $80 right now, you'll have a fully functional labs in V5," I'd be tempted to do it, not wait a couple of weeks or a month. I'd be tempted. But as far as the most I'd pay for, I'll go as far as probably $150 to $200, maybe at max, for a fully functional, massively awesome plane. I mean, if the Challenger 650 that Todorico is working on came out at 120, I'm not going to blink. But some people will,
Yep.
I
yeah. Sorry, just my if there is a level D or a study level plane that I will have done a bit of research on that really interests me, I will, 100% be willing to spend the money on, because for me, that's what it's about for me. I love the study level. I love that stuff. That's, gets me super jazzed and excited. And I love showing that stuff off and sharing that. So, for me, if it's study level and, I think it's that 2 number, anything really above $200 scares me. And I just won't do it because that's just a big number to spend on an airplane. But that, anything from $200 down, if it's study level and it's getting good reviews and I've seen people stream it and stuff, you have me at hello. Yeah, I can do it. So yeah, for sure.
I would say 200 is my upper limit. I wouldn't pay a penny more. Okay, I'll pay a penny more, but I mean, at that point, it really better make you want to fly it a lot. There's a point in which I'll buy stupid stuff for the stream and all that, just to show it off and whatever. But I mean, $200 for one add-on. I mean, it really better be something that I'm gonna get my money's worth and be worthwhile for. I think it's my completely top upper limit, but I'm okay with spending between 100 and 150 from those guys like FS Labs, PMDG. Those, it's just, they're household, names for flight sim basically. So, they're putting out good quality products.
I'll go back to the subject that I talked about a year ago, and that is I still would love to see a subscription model where I pay X amount per month or per year, and I have access to an array of aircraft, both small and big and fully developed, not only do the developers get reoccurring revenue, but I'll probably spend less, and two, I'll spend less but be able to fly more different options. But at the same time, I'll also not have to rebuy things for new versions of this, that, and the other because I'm a part of that subscription plan. I still think that's a viable option that some people are like, I want to be
That's a fun
buy
idea,
it
actually.
and one and done. But
Why does that not happen then, do you think? What's the big
I think
hesitation for devs?
it comes down to cooperation amongst developers, and the big boys saying, yeah, okay, I'll bundle in with a monthly or yearly subscription with this other major big developer. It comes down to, they think that they're going to make more money being on their own potentially. I don't know, but the software as a service we know is a game changer. You no longer can buy the Adobe suite. You have to pay monthly or yearly. And so if I look back and I look at the amount of aircraft that I purchased this year, and then I divided that by 12 months, it's an astronomical number. And maybe from me personally, because I'm a streamer and you two are streamers, we're going to buy more than the average sim enthusiast. But I think you're going to have more people getting in on a subscription model that the developers will actually make more money because they're appealing to a wider range of people rather than
make it more volume, yeah, rather than just.
But it comes down to cooperation. I mean, it would be difficult to do it, but if you could get an FS Labs and a Carenado and a PMDG to all say, "Yep, we'll go in on the subscription model."
If you could have a third-party company come in and kind of do that, where you have this, program where you can just simply install planes on that sort of basis. If you can have, 1-hour demos or 10-minute demos of airports and airplanes, you can simply extend that timeline to whatever a month is in terms of hours, right? And say it's a demo product that expires in 30 days. And after 30 days, if you don't re-up, it gets wiped type of thing. So I don't think in that capacity that the DRM would be too difficult to work around with in terms of, guys ripping it or pirating it.
Yeah.
But it seems like a really feasible option. I don't know why
Yeah.
people haven't pursued that because that sounds like it would actually really open up a lot of opportunities for people.
At the end of the day, I want them to make
interesting.
more money, and I want it to become more accessible across the board. It'll be interesting to see what happens with future platforms with regard to DLCs and that type of thing. So we'll see. Maybe the Microsofts of the world can bring a lot of developers together for a subscription model. I don't know. It may never happen. We'll see.
Yeah.
That's kind of
another question here, which I think is a good one by Rigorian. It says, "What is your opinion on why shared cockpit, joint streams that provide both perspectives at once haven't gained traction outside of the full pit, sim guys and gals? I feel like there's an opening in the market. Maybe. What's your guys' thoughts on that? Why it shared hasn't gained so much traction?
P3D doesn't have many options with regard to shared. I mean, what you can do, I'm still waiting for you two to do the dash.
I'm waiting. I've been waiting for a year for this.
I'm getting it next week. So
perfect. I love that.
Yeah.
So I know that apparently the Aerosoft is kind of buggy, but I only know of a very few amount of products in P3D that do shared cockpit. So one, that's a factor because the majority of simmers, I think, well, at least half of simmers and Twitch viewers do P3D. And then X-Plane, it's a little bit buggy. There's a little bit of technical challenge with regard to firewalls, config files, having the same airport, the same elevation data. I mean, you take someone who's a little bit savvy on the PC side, and you're more likely to have a successful connection because you're able to go in. For example, D-Money's, we all love D-Money's 327. Snackair.com's web guru. He's a very well versed in firewalls, and he said to me, "John, share your screen to me on Discord." So I shared my screen. He said, You're not doing a NAT rule. You're doing you need to do it here. This is why this isn't working." So we were able to figure it out. But for the regular person off the street, it's difficult to do it right now. And the Majestic is pretty seamless because it's all right there in the EFB. I look forward to seeing you two do that. Why it's not caught on, again, I think it's because of the lack of it in P3D. And secondly, the technical barriers of it. Those are the two things. And I think if when you guys do your dash stream, I actually think there's going to be a lot of numbers and I think there'll be a large audience that'll be very interested in it. So, but more people will do it once P3D or 2020 or adopt more and more of this shared cockpit.
Yeah, for me, I'm not a huge fan of it. You know what I mean? I'm not really a big shared guy. It's just not my like cup of tea, to be honest with you. I just doesn't like really get me riled up type of thing. But it's fun once in a while, to have kind of somebody else there to help you out and share the load with. Have somebody who is ATP like Max come in here and kind of save my bacon if I'm messing up, or he can handle radios while I'm flying out, or vice versa. It's just sharing that workload. It's fun, but I wouldn't want to do it on a regular basis because I'm so used to doing single pilot in the sim. So to have that change, yeah, it's good to have that change, but at the same time, it would totally just throw me out of whack trying to, figure out how to share it with somebody virtually where you can't see where their hands are going. You can't see what they're doing. You don't know if he's taking care of that or you're taking care of this type of thing. So it would definitely be a learning curve for me, but I'm hoping with the Dash 8 next week, myself and Max can kind of, end up meshing together pretty well on those flights because it is a pretty workload intensive plane from what I understand at times. So it's cool, but yeah, just not my personal favorite thing, the shared stuff.
Yeah, I agree with Brad. I think it's super cool and awesome to do, but I think it's that, once in a blue, once every, month or two sort of thing, but something not to do a lot. I mean, just from a personal point of view, Brad mentioned the single pilot thing, right? Everyone knows I fly quite a bit single pilot, or used to quite a bit. And when I went for my ATP, CTP course, a lot of it is crewed and, big jet stuff. And I remember this vividly. I went to go turn the heading knob when it was on autopilot. And there was a guy who had flown, I think he flew Falcons or something, who was doing it also. And he slapped my hand right down. He said, no, 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 that ain't your button. That ain't your knob. And, it's one of those things where, like, if you're so used to doing something single pilot, right? And then you go and fly crew, it could be sim, it could be real world, it doesn't matter. We're so used to doing it all of just JonFly in the pit, Brad in the pit, myself,
Yep.
that to then share the load is like, whoa, what? It's trust me, from doing it IRL, it's very, very different. You become a team. You're not, it's, single pilot. A good single pilot is you're in the zone, but you have to be, you in a way you're selfish because everything is you, right? Everything is on you. You are by yourself, right? You are basically you're solo. When it's someone else, it's a team, it's a mesh. In a way, it's that whole, you're just it's teamwork. And I think that is the difference, and why I think shared maybe hasn't picked up as much is because, we want to do it all ourselves and then have to share that load often is kind of like, do I really want to do it, sort of thing.
Yeah, I think I'll be doing shared probably, I would say 2 times a quarter at most. I will say, though, that I really, really enjoy it. I really loved the other day doing the FlyJSim 737-200 shared cockpit with D-Monies. I've enjoyed doing, I did shared cockpit with Tel West. Tel West is a real-world A320 driver who is doing, he's doing programming for shared cockpit for X-Plane on many, many GA aircraft, stuff that we don't even have a config file publicly available. He's making it work. So I've enjoyed those moments. Several other people I've done, I used to do shared cockpit back in the day with JSnap, and I enjoy it. But yeah, I only want to do it, I would say maybe, once a month at most, maybe twice if there's something. D-Monies and I are probably going to do it a little bit more over the next month or two than normal, but then it'll probably roll out to a little less often. I rather enjoy it, but I use it more of a moment to relax a little bit on a flight. Oh, can you can you get that button? Can you remind me to do this? Can you do this? Oh, it's really cool that this guy in Texas is actually rotating that knob and shifting that thing and this, that, and the other. Oh, I need to go to the bathroom. Can you take the flight deck? I really enjoy it, but not on a regular basis. I would love for Quality Wings 787 to come out with a shared cockpit file so I could fly that plane shared with that guy in the chat. That guy right there, who's a real world driver. I use the word driver. They don't like that, but
yeah, it's also just like, we have different ways of doing things, so like Max was saying, just kind of figuring each other out in the terms of the span of 10 minutes and then trying to complete a flight, let's say into Aspen. You better be ready because, it's the whole flight can just suddenly go to heck, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be unique to figure out that one. But I look forward to it in some aspect. But yeah, like you're saying, not more than once a month if I
Yep.
can help it, type of thing.
Yep.
So
Good question.
That was a good one. Brad, do you have anyone, John, anyone that you interest you to ask, or we can ask?
I don't have it up in front of me, so I'll defer to Brad.
All right,
Yeah, I
Bradley.
actually see a pretty good one here. I mean, this is going to go back to equipment a little bit, but in terms of the honeycomb announcements, i.e. the throttle and now the pedals, anything piquing your guys' interest, anything that you want to have, you must have after owning. I think we all have the yoke at this point, right? I know Max doesn't use it as much, nor do I terribly much. I don't know. Do you have that, John?
I have the yoke.
Yeah.
And I haven't. It's still in the box. It's still sitting over here sealed. The Amazon box hasn't even been opened. It's just like I either got to give it away.
Yeah, that's gonna be an epic giveaway.
I either got to give it away or I've got to break it out and try it. But it's as far as hardware though, the one thing that I'm really, really, really wanting badly is, I have this. I'll show it here on the webcam. I have this, this GoFlight MCP Pro panel. This thing is rock solid with all of the PMDG aircraft and several of the Boeings and X-Plane. This thing is a game changer for me on an FNO. Being able to just quickly rotate all those different knobs and that, and not have to use the mouse while I'm streaming this, that, and the other. I really, really want an Airbus FCU, but they're so pricey.
Scalarchy,
they're so
pricey.
expensive. But that's the one piece, to answer the question, that's the one piece that I really, really want badly. Like you say, Scalarchy, is that what? Yeah, I've heard of that one.
Scalarchy was the guy who was at the expo in Orlando, and he had the full entire sim plus the panels he was selling, which were at that time not compatible with the FS Labs. So it's like, okay, great. Then what am I buying this for? Right? You're gonna spend 8 times as much on the FCU as the actual Aerosoft cost, for example. But now it's compatible with the labs, as there's the rest of his stuff. So it's changing quite a bit. But you should look into that because he has some really, really good quality hardware. Yeah,
I wouldn't.
For me, I know.
Yeah, I really want it specifically for the labs.
Yeah, no, 100%. That'd be a great tool. I was never much of a physical hardware guy like you, John, in terms of having the radio stacks and the real sim gear stuff. I like doing it in the plane type of thing for me, and having my desk kind of just nice and clean and simple. But I would say in reference to the honeycomb stuff, for me, I'm looking forward to the pedals. I want some new pedals. I might get the crosswinds. I might hold off for the Charlie pedals, I guess they're calling them, but I think for me, the throttles, I don't need them. It's a lot. It's going to take up a lot of real estate in the desk, and I just don't think it'll fit well in my specific situation. So, yeah, it's me.
Yeah, for me, there's really nothing on a flight simming hardware point of view that is really piquing my interest. I love my HOTAS. I love my pedals, as we've spoken about in depth. There's really nothing. I guess there's one thing that I am kind of starting to look towards is kind of cleaning up my audio, and kind of getting maybe a soundboard, is kind of one thing that I had spoken to, kind of thinking about, just with levels and stuff. Again, one issue that I have on VATSIM is every time I get a frequency change, I have to change the levels of the controller because got to go in the sound volume in the mixer and do all that stuff. And it'd be nice to just have a physical kind of, move them up, move them down, and easy peasy. So I think that's probably one thing that I'll be getting, but not hardware point of view. I'm super happy with what I have now. Everything works. It's not broken, which is a miracle, and we're in good. Besides my mouses that I break from Call of Duty, everything is in good shape.
That's
So
pretty brutal.
Yeah.
I just want some new pedals. I've had them for 2 years now. They were like $60 when I bought them. They're starting to show their age in that respect, and I want something a bit more sturdy that'll last, a 5 or a 6 year time span and has some really good quality parts to it. So I've heard nothing but good things about those MFGs from you guys, and I got to use them once as well.
Had them for 4 years already. 4 years.
Yeah, that's. I think that might be my next hardware purchase is going to be those guys. So
I recommend getting a piece of wood, square wood, and mounting them on that, and then putting that piece of wood up against the wall.
Why they slide?
I'm just saying. Yeah, they're you need to ground them somehow. Either screw them into the carpet or get a piece of board. I have a perfect square board.
Just because of the force to use to move those guys?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, interesting.
It's really easy to solve the issue, but some people mount them directly into the carpet, and then like I did, I just got a square board and put them on there, and it's perfect. So
nice. All right, good tip. Thanks. Good tip. A couple of more
Uh,
questions here. That a lot of these are about V5.
Yep.
Kind of like summarizing all of them basically is, V5. How is it going to look in terms of, when you combine all the flight sims together now, right? The new Microsoft one coming out, X-Plane 11, V4. A couple of questions here about the new enhanced atmosphere in terms of those new volumetric clouds, which is pretty cool to have those native in a flight sim and stuff like that. But just, I think, to summarize the question here, maybe it's too broad and maybe a bad question, but where do you see things in like a year? Like, what do you see being predominantly used in a year from now out of those options?
Yeah, I guess to put a question on a question, will we be using V4 a year from now? And that's it'll be interesting to see if we're still using V4 for anything a year from now, because I hate having two versions on my sim, and we know that the big boys are going to make their installers compatible, but I think we're all going to be just experiencing much better frame rates without having to spend money on hardware. I think we've hit the bottleneck for the most part. I think you're going to be able to take a pretty low end AMD or Intel CPU, and because of Vulkan and because of DX12 and whatever the new platform is using, I think that we're all just going to have more fluid situations and be able to bring more eye candy, turn up those settings, and it's going to get better and better. That's my first thought.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I kind of agree with some of the guys talking in chat. I think once there's the FS Labs, the PNG sceneries, and flow for V5, I will be making the transition over. I will be getting rid of V4, and I will be moving past V4 and onto V5. That's how I feel from the P3D point of view. This time next year, what I'm hoping, and this is just, is I'll have V5 going, I'll have 2020 going, and I'll have X-Plane going 11. And really, honestly, if it wasn't for the Challenger hot start coming out in X-Plane, who knows? Maybe that will be in Microsoft also at some point, and then that would, and the TBM. But there's really not that many things holding me back from just saying to X-Plane delete. The photo, I've kind of grown past the photo now. I love the Orbic stuff, especially in Europe. It is beautiful. I've kind of outgrown that. So for me, there's very few things that are keeping me in X-Plane right now. There is obviously the main thing, which is the hot start stuff, and maybe one or two other things on a smaller note. But if it all works out well, and maybe hot starts in Microsoft 2020 at some point, maybe not a year, but maybe a year and a half, then my plan is to have V5 in 2020 and just to completely get rid of X-Plane 11. But we'll see what happens.
You just lost 4 snacks.
I lost 4 snacks.
Can I give 4 snacks to Max for that great comment there, John, if that's
Dang
okay
it.
with you?
Dang it. All right, fine. Swappy
Yeah,
swap.
no worries,
I would
Max,
say,
gotcha. Yep.
you will on occasion miss a Citation S550 though, or some of these other things that you do break out,
Eaglesoft.
once or twice, 3 times a month, stuff that we don't have on P3D. I think there's still room for that old laminar love.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is about that is, I mean, I just looked at my drive right now, right? I have a X-Plane's on a 4 terabyte SSD, right? And I only have 44 gigs free on that drive. I could put that whole thing on 2020 and have, V5 or whatever I wanted to do, and it just cleans up everything for me. And if I'm gonna miss flying the Tornado, sure, I might miss it a little bit, but is it gonna my overall perspective of my computer will be much happier, I think. Again, it's really just there's a couple things that
hot start will keep you around for a little bit.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. That's going to be so good.
Yeah, to be 100% honest with me, I think that, frankly, the only thing keeping me in X-Plane is the TBM, which I actually do have like real interest in wanting to fly on a consistent basis. And if I do ever fly off stream, it's pretty much that aircraft. I'll go just do some buzzing around VFR flying and chill out a bit. But that plane, which I was, again, a late adopter to, and I was just like, man, I cannot believe I waited so long to do it. I have enjoyed, and thoroughly so, in my top 5 favorites, a guarantee. And it's not just because it's so amazing and it's Puerto Rico. It's just a really fun plane to fly, and I love the combination. I love its looks. I love its performance. Its avionics. It comes together for me personally. So that's for me is keeping me in X-Plane almost exclusively, besides like the 757. Otherwise, I'm on the same page as
757.
Max.
Yeah.
I'm like, just give me a reason.
Yeah, I'm gonna maintain that I'll be P3D 68% for the foreseeable future.
I think it's 86 for you, John. I think you're
Yeah.
kind of in the 86 category. I think you maybe had a bit
Dyslexic.
of a bit of a simism there when you're making that emote up. It's definitely 86.
I'm sure loving P3D for sure.
It's 86.
The it's good. I like the honesty.
Yeah.
I like the scene through the backstage pass into your minds with regard to X-Plane. It's good.
Yeah, but it's again, once the Aerobasque Falcon 7X releases and also the 650, I might end up having like more of a 60-40, 70-30 split in favor of XP, building some hours up in those beautiful looking jets and stuff like that and having some fun. So it's kind of just on
ebbs and flows.
Like a dynamic scale. It's dynamic. It could really change, but depends on what's available to me. So yeah. Let's see. We have actually maybe just a couple more questions.
Yeah, a couple more.
Sound fair?
Yeah.
So again, not to beat the dead horse, but maybe we shouldn't. Yeah, that's just beating the dead horse. We'll end up skipping on that.
Can I just briefly talk about those clouds in V5 for just a second?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, it's your stream, John. So go ahead.
Just in the initial loading up of those new atmospherics in P3D V5, I'm not happy. I know it's a beta, and I'm not expecting any more than what we have. I understand that maybe if you're flying through them, they look cool, they're more volumetric or whatever, but from a distance, they're really causing havoc with like the ridge of a mountain line. They're that X and viral gradiness that we get. It has that pixelation outside. Now, granted, there's some aircraft that also have some pixelation on the panel, but I'm thinking with aircraft updates, it's going to get better. But for me personally, I'm turning it off until it improves a little bit. But I don't mind it being there as an option. Yeah. I'm happy and I'm not complaining. I'm just stating the fact that it's nice to have as an option to turn on. But with V5, I'll be leaving it off most of the time.
I think it's a great canvas to have to begin with, and for guys like maybe Rex to come in here, and maybe Rex can adopt that technology and use their expertise and blow it up to a whole different level. And they can say, wow, Lockheed did the hard work for us. Now let's really kind of revise and finalize that and pump out, something that can just look tremendously amazing in terms of really high res volumetric clouds. Maybe they can apply their photoreal technology to that somehow. Right. But I still think it's a nice kind of base layer to begin with. Mm-hmm. And,
it's nice that you can turn it off with just a click though. Or on, exactly. Or on.
No, yeah, for sure. That's definitely a nice thing to have without having to reboot the sim and stuff like that. But it's also a really good kind of, it has a nice appeal to somebody who is thinking, well, should I get V5? Well, here's something really new that you haven't had before. Check it out, type of thing. So it's also, good in that capacity. But yeah, it does take up some VRAM, some frames and whatnot. I found that the latest drivers from NVIDIA helped that a little bit. But I mean,
I just a little segue there from those last two questions, but yeah.
No, that's totally fair. Yeah, that's totally fair. I think any of the wrapping up thoughts you guys have?
No, I mean, I think this has been I think we've touched on, even just compared to the last podcast, a lot of wide ranging topics on this. So I think we've really touched a lot of really good stuff, and I think yeah. I mean, I don't know. I feel like we've really touched on a bunch of different things that I've been thinking about from a community point of view, and stuff that I've been hearing that people want, opinions on, answers to. So I think really, really good stuff. So I hope everyone did enjoy it, to be honest, because I know I really did.
Yeah, I really appreciate everyone being in the chat and participating. I think that this is honestly, if I were driving down the road and Max and Brad were talking just like this, just casually and asking questions and popping the back and forth dynamically with no script really, except for a few questions there, I would really enjoy riding down the highway listening to these two. So it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure having the show with you guys. It really is. And I do want to apologize to everyone in chat. There's been a lot of questions in chat, a lot of stuff that we haven't been able to acknowledge, but we're reading, and we're watching, and we're thanking you for being here.
Yeah, thank you to everyone. It's been a pleasure. Super awesome. Thank you,
Max and I,
John.
by the
Thank
way,
you,
we
Brad.
do have these conversations on a normal basis. Like, this is not just like we will call each other up and be like, "What do you think of this?" or "What do you think of that?" Like, it's not just for the it's not just for the PB&J. But I mean, yeah, so much has happened since the last episode that it's hard to not, it's hard to condense it all into one short time frame. But there's definitely going to be, I think, a lot more coming up here pretty soon as we see V5 mature, as we see more news on the alpha of the new sim, maybe some Vulkan optimizations and, compatibilities and stuff. So there's going to be plenty more coming up on the next episode just because of the sheer volume of what's happening right now for Flight Sim itself.
There you go.
Yeah.
Oh, I just looked here. We had 200 people, so thank you guys so much for being
Thank you.
here.
That's really impressive.
It's really
awesome.
It's really good, and I hope that we can do this again in sometime in May, and we'll do that on who's next. We'll have to. I don't know.
I think
who's
Brad's next.
Is he?
Nope, it's Mr. Citation Max.
Is it me?
Is it Max?
All right.
All right. Well, looking
Yep.
forward to that.